Welcome to Slicing Through the Noise, a leader's story, the podcast that uncovers real stories behind impactful leadership. Join us as we explore how leaders cut through the chaos, master powerful listening, and build cultures of accountability and vision. Whether you're a seasonal executive or an emerging leader, this is your space to learn, grow, and lead with integrity. Let's slice through the noise together. So hello and welcome, Cameron, to Slicing Through the Noise and the Leader's Journey. And I'm really excited to have you along. Why? I reckon we've been hanging out, talking to each other for about 12 years now. It's been a long time. And that leader's journey is the one that I've personally watched you go through. And it was extraordinary. Some of the tough things that you've gone through, some of the great wins that you've had, and the way you make decisions, especially around people. And I want to put a little bit of attention on that today, like how much for you, it's always people first. And I think it's the biggest pleasure about working together and having that kind of relationship. And one of the things I really love is I can call you when I'm stuck as a leader and ask you some things. And you've given me a few serves. And I love that. I actually love it. I love the fact that people who I admire, who I have spent a lot of time with, are totally unafraid to go, what do you think you're doing? And I've learnt a lot from watching what you do, and it's been such a pleasure, and it's really exciting to have you on our podcast. So for our listeners, this is Cameron Ryan from a company called Cality Care, and he also has owned a number of other businesses. And I just want to go through his moments of entrepreneurial seizures and what he's done along the way and how he started.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah.
It's been a fantastic journey. I know you said you've watched me go through the journey. I'd say there's many times where you've pushed me through that journey of leadership growth, because it's not something you necessarily want to take, but you need someone there to help guide you and push you. And, you've been there to do that at really critical times for me. So, it's been wonderful to be part of. And I think you and your team have done an incredible job with our team around building leadership skills and helping us become better leaders.
So I actually want to start at the beginning, where you went from a recruiter to a founder.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And your early years in industrial labour hire, what did it teach you around matching people with opportunity? And when did you have that first itch to own your own firm?
Yeah, good question. I think I always had the itch to do that. My dad was a consultant, not an employee. He was in IT. This was years and years back in the 70s and 80s. So very early days of IT. And I think I always admired him doing that. And he wasn't necessarily an employee. He didn't employ other people, but kind of had his own little business that he ran himself. And I guess I've always had that inclination that I wanted to do my own thing at some point. I fell into recruitment, as a lot of people do, and learnt how to recruit people, learn a lot about how to win business, how to sell, how to provide a great service, and really started my journey of learning how to work with and manage people. It was a labour hire business that I went into, so I didn't do a lot of perm recruitment. I did a lot of labour hire recruitment, and we were making commitments to customers around delivering numbers of people each day to warehouses and factories, and they needed those people. So it was our job to recruit them, place them into those roles on a casual basis, and really just ensure that they had enough people each day to be able to do what that business needed to do. So managing all of that, I learned lots of skills.
Yeah. Well, I know that you scaled a new branch to national number one. And what were the 2 or 3 levers that you made that made that possible? Like, what made that possible?
If I put it down to 2 or 3 things, I think the company I worked for at the time was very well set up as a business. They weren't around for a long time. It was a company called Labour Ready, but they had a national footprint, and they had a very good, well set up business around processes, around how to run the business, and the support that you got from head office to help you in opening and running a branch. I also had a great mentor, the guy called Glenn, who was my manager up until that point, and had shown me, a lot of what to do, and was really transparent about, how a business ran, and I guess, leading me through that whole journey as a consultant to then take on a branch. That all really helped, and I think the third thing would be the people. The team I had on at Rockdale, that was the branch we opened. We're a great team of people, just, really motivated. We're all kind of youngish, except for the payroll lady.
It's a good thing she wasn't.
That's probably a good thing. You need a little bit of balance in your team. But yeah, it was a great team. We were very motivated, worked really well together, and, good support across the business.
So in 2011, the ARC Group begins.
Or 2001.
Oh, sorry, 2001. I made a mistake. In 2001, the ARC Group begins. Walk us through your decision to co-found that group, and then add a RTO, a registered training organisation. What problems were you solving that recruiters or TAFE weren't actually, like ARC training and that kind of thing? Like, what did that do for you and your clients that you served?
Yeah, sure. Starting a business was an interesting journey just to start with. I was working, like I said, for a national organisation. I'd met a lady, Anne, during work at that business. We got to talking at some point, and both decided that we wanted to start a recruitment company ourselves, branch out, do something ourselves. Not necessarily that we could do anything better. I just felt that if I could do it for them, why couldn't I do it for myself? There wasn't a lot of barriers to entry into that market, so I guess there was the opportunity to do that. And then, lo and behold, there was another gentleman in the business at the time that was, interested in coming on board and doing something with us as well. So the three of us were going to start a company together. And
what fun.
Yeah, what fun. He was actually my boss at the time, and I handed my notice in, and then about a week later, he lets us know that how about we just start it, and he'll join us in 6 or 12 months' time, do a few things behind the scenes, but he'll keep his job for the time being.
Yeah, right.
I was like a deer in lights. I had no idea. I'd never run a business before. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's okay. I guess. Anne, who was 20 years older than me and very experienced, said, go to hell. There's no way we're doing that. We're either all in it or we're not. And anyway, it ended up being me and Anne. So, an interesting start to a business.
Before you even start, you've lost a partner.
Before you even start. And, that was kind of a point of time of which, are we going to go ahead or not? Because, the plans had been made. Anne and I decided we would push ahead together and just changed our focus a bit around what we were doing. I'm really glad I had a business partner at that point that was experienced, that did have, her family had run pubs and other things. And so she'd had that business sense. I was fortunate to have a really great partner.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you start out, as you're all enthusiastic and isn't this fabulous? And then you go, what the heck have I said I'll do?
Oh, totally. Yeah. You go from being in a business that's, you ring the marketing department, you want something,
I am the marketing department.
To sitting in a small office looking at Anne going, okay, so who's creating the letterhead? I guess I will.
I mean, it's like, do you remember those? I don't know if you recall this, but I've started a few businesses and, there's me and one other person normally, and you bow and you put on another hat.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
bow, I'm
totally.
sales now.
Yep.
Oh, now I'm HR. Now I'm the recruiter. Now I'm this. And you feel like you're a lunatic in the end.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that was a big shift to go from, having a lot of resources to having your own yourselves, and that's it. That's your resources. So, it was a hard slog.
You work long hours.
Yeah, you work long hours. You work hard, but you're pretty motivated, and you work pretty hard to try and be successful. So, a good start. We as a recruitment business, we were doing very similar type work in the industrial field. That's what I knew. And Anne also had a background in that. So we kicked that off. And then, as you mentioned, we started another business about 12 months later called, it's now called Arkway Careers. I'm still running that business. It's a not-for-profit group training company. Very similar. It's a labour hire business. It's just that we're focused on trainees and apprentices and hosting them out to companies, really promoting mostly youth coming through, getting into a job. I actually find I connect really well with what that business does. I think it's not a very well-known pathway for kids out of high school. I think it should be, a much better known. I think it's becoming more known.
Say some more about it, because we've used it and it works, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I have an opinion, and it's an opinion, that universities have hijacked people that actually really, that's not the path for them. They would be better suited to go into apprenticeships or to go into admin assistant roles and work their way up, because that's how they learn.
Yep.
So tell us more about what that actually does, and what's the opportunity for any young person that's listening to this looking for some kind of career.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's a great pathway if you're not 100% sure that uni's what you want.
Yeah.
I wish I'd taken that pathway myself. I wouldn't have had a big debt at the end of uni that I had, took me years to pay off. I think in Australia right now, we've got a real problem.
Yeah.
The universities are trying to replace the international students that they're, losing with domestic students, and they're just racking up loans. That's what these students are doing. And you can go out and get an education and get paid at the same time.
Yeah.
So as a trainee or an apprentice.
Hey, I think that's a piece of gold. You can get an education and get trained and be paid at the same time.
Absolutely. And it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
So it's a really great pathway, whether you're going into business, whether you're going into some other area of traineeship or apprenticeship. We predominantly focus on corporate roles in businesses around trainees. So, it's just a really great pathway. And I actually learn best having you as my coach. I learn best by doing.
Yes.
So, in retrospect, me going to university, although I had a great time and met some wonderful people who I'm still really good friends with, I didn't learn a lot more there that I put into work when I started my job.
Yeah.
Like I could have just started my job and done nearly exactly as well as I did without going to university. Now, I could have done uni later.
Yeah. Yeah, I quit university because it just wasn't a pathway for me. I learn like you do by doing things, like show me and let me have a go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of people learn like that.
I agree. And traineeships and apprenticeships are a great way to do it. And you can work your way up through a diploma and then onto university if you want to go down that path. And a lot of the time, employers these days would be quite open to discussing with you around paying for your university or part paying it with you, rather than you just being lumped with the whole bill.
Yeah.
Because what you're learning that you're putting into practice in your workplace.
Yep.
So it'll be applicable.
Well, if you're not, I'm a practical person. If what I'm learning is just going to not actually feed what I'm growing, then I have a real problem with it. And I think that universities are struggling with that now because they lack relevance.
Yeah, I agree. Unless it's really specific around, the job function and what somebody's doing.
You're going to be an engineer, a doctor, or something like that. A psychiatrist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, okay.
100%. But if it's just a business degree, or if it's just a general, arts degree or something that's really general, it's a lot of money for not a lot of, outcome.
Yeah.
So.
Well said, because I think people, if anyone's listening, go and have a look at what you guys are offering, because I think it's a great service, especially if you're in business as well. It's both.
Absolutely.
So your strategic pivot, to care.
Yep.
And catching the care wave really, well, I would say early. Would you say early?
Early, well, now you look back, it's probably early, but maybe at the time it was, a couple of years. You could have identified it a couple of years early, but I didn't do strategy until 2014. So there you go. We caught it when we first started doing strategy.
Yeah.
So I think, we Anne and I created an RTO in 2005. Anne and I parted ways. She wanted to do something else, so I bought her shares in the business in about 2009, so just after the GFC. And then, so I had sort of three businesses in the group, and the training business was where we could see the opportunity, particularly for the care sector. So when we ran that strategic sort of view of, what do we want to do in the next 5 years, we wanted to really grow our training business. We could see that being the opportunity for us over, that sort of 2015 to 2020. And care was an area where the ageing population was being talked about. The NDIS was just coming about and rolling out in Australia in 2014, 2015. So we took on the care qualifications and really ran at that with the training business. So
to become NDIS approved, that's a big process.
Well, the training side of it was really just getting the qualifications on board. But what ended up happening is the recruiting business that we first started really waned. We weren't focused on it. Arcway Careers, we were focused on still wanting to get young people into traineeships. That was working well. The training business was going well. The recruiting business was really just servicing customers we'd had for a long time, still in the industrial kind of space. And we went, actually, let's move this into the care sector. So we ended up dropping off our industrial clients and picking up a number of businesses that we serviced in the care space, whether it's aged care or disability. And then from there, we basically worked out that a lot of the businesses we were servicing at the time with Labor were home care businesses. We thought, well, to us, they felt like a middleman.
Yeah.
What does a home care business do? How does it work? And once we identified kind of what it did, and by that stage, we had a lot of people in the business. We had resources there that helped us understand, what a home care business did. We chose to start our own home care business in the NDIS space, so working in disability.
So what's interesting to me is things happen along the way. What has you recognized that you're onto something? Because that would be good for listeners to hear. How do you know, hey, this could have legs? How do you think that says, okay, so you've got strategy and you go, okay, but how do you know this got legs, this hasn't got legs?
Oh, I don't. Nothing's guaranteed.
No,
there's a few failures, but essentially, I'm not moving away significantly from what we were doing. The mechanics of the business were things that we knew and understood. So, being able to kind of spot the opportunity and go, well, it's not going to take a lot for us to learn the bits that we need to learn, or move our business into that space. We already know strategically it's a good area of growth. So why don't we push into that? That's really what we saw, I think.
I think one of the things I just heard you say is that you could see that the mechanics of the business could dovetail and could fit.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing, because if you're doing a complete flip which I've seen businesses do, it's absolutely disastrous most time because you're walking into something you know nothing about.
Yeah, and that's probably, a good point, into the, business that I wasn't successful in was something I didn't know a lot about.
Digivest?
Yeah, Digivest.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I think knowing how a business operates, at least, half of it, is a good foundation to, gauging whether or not you think it can be successful. And then it's leveraging, some of your resources. And for me, that's what I've done to grow things and be successful.
So, like operating at that high bar and then going international and expanding it, what were the things that your governance, quality systems were not negotiable for you moving outside of Australia?
I think we first of all decided to look international, mainly due to the RTO and education. So education was is a big export for Australia, and we thought, great, how could we get involved? Is there an opportunity for us? We explored overseas in a few Asian countries, and every country had the same issue on the horizon, which was you've got an aging population, and how's that population going to get looked after? We were looking at the training side of it. How do you train up your care workers to be able to, care for those people? With the rigor that goes into an Australian qualification, actually delivering the level of qualification overseas that we deliver, it's very costly, and they couldn't afford to pay what it would cost. I think the broad, international education market for Australia is university. So, it's that sort of higher level education. So I think, for us expanding over there, doing something like that, we couldn't do it because of the compliance requirements and what we needed to do. So we pivoted and thought home care, which was a business we'd started in Australia, and we thought maybe that's the opportunity. And we saw sort of two opportunities, one in China and one in Malaysia, and with some partners that we were looking at. Malaysia wasn't a partnership, but we saw an opportunity with some people that were working in home care that were interested in, coming on board and working with us. So we ended up choosing Malaysia over China. In hindsight, I'm really glad we did. Would have been a really big challenge. I mean, Malaysia was challenging enough, and yet they've systems and et cetera, accounting, et cetera, is very similar to Australia. And we can actually own a business over there wholly and solely, whereas in China you can't do that. So really glad we went with Malaysia. The team we've got on board are the same people. So they're still with us. They're 7 years later.
Wow.
And they're doing a really great job building that business. And we're now a training business in Malaysia. We're a home care business. And we also do labour hire. So, that opportunity's, succeeded. And I think it's, again, through finding the right people.
So, so when bets don't pay, right, let's just go.
Can't we just talk about the good stuff?
No. I reckon, don't you think you learnt more from the mistakes you made?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I look back and I know that I learnt so much more from the real stuff-ups that I've done. I'm going, hello, that's not a good look.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's mostly how you learn, I guess.
And if you think about the postmortems you've had to run on people, businesses, what do you think are the biggest lessons for leaders to know and to watch out for and listen to people who are willing to give them some form of advice? Who do you seek? Who do you go talk to?
Well, I can just talk about me and my lessons. Whether they're applicable for others, I'm not sure. But for me, probably the biggest lesson when I look back at what I've learned in the last 10 years was actually recognizing the learning I had to do, and that I did have an ego. I do have an ego, and being able to accept that, be okay with it, and actually listen to people rather than just pay them lip service.
Yeah.
So I used to sit there going, yes, yes, yes. And in my head, I'm going, no, I'm not doing that. I know what I'm doing. It'll be okay.
So, I mean, that's a lovely piece of goal for someone who's aspiring to leadership, is at some point acknowledging that other people may know something you don't know, or to listen to good advice and take action in that direction and let go of your ego. A good healthy dose of ego is what's required, I believe, to lead and run a business. Yeah? It's when we shut out good thinking from someone or anyone.
Yep.
And as soon as that happens, we're in trouble.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, so that for me was a big lesson. I think, I've learned lots of lessons, Jennifer. Some of the bigger ones, look, having a business fail, for me was, really challenging, and I'd sunk a small fortune into that business, thinking it was going to be amazing and great, and I don't think I knew how to get out of it. Yeah. But finally just cutting ties and saying, I've lost the money, it's gone, was the best thing I did. It was really, really hard.
Well, it's painful.
Yeah, really painful.
So you sink a small fortune into something, it doesn't work, and you've actually bled your other business, because most times that's what most
that's what I did.
Entrepreneurs that are having a little seizure, they go and pull money out of one business, sink it into this bright new idea, which sounds like you did. Now what?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I had other fires to put out. So, that the growth of the RTO was, really significant over a few years, and we didn't have great systems in place or processes in place. Things started falling apart. We failed a couple of audits, had to rectify work. So there was a whole heap of things that went wrong all at the same time that, were extremely painful. Yes. And, really helped me better understand the value in putting in, writing it out. What's the process? How does it get followed? It's great for training people. If you don't have all that stuff available for people, and I'm not, I think because it's not something I enjoy doing, or it's not my go-to to have all that detail and write it all out, and it wasn't a focus for me. And I didn't worry about it. Now it's a focus.
Yeah. So tell us more about learning that systems and processes. What difference does it make for you as a leader to lead people when you've got clear systems and processes, and what happens when you don't?
I think when you don't have it in place, the quality of your work drops. There's no way, you're really relying on the person to know what they're doing. And when that person walks out of your business, who's training the next person? So having a process there enables people to be trained up. It also enables people in the business to go on holidays. Other people can learn, what that job is. So I think there's a raft of benefits to having your processes up to date and easily understood by people. Somebody could literally go there and read that process and or watch the process and be able to replicate that and learn it. It just frees your people up, frees you up to know that there'll be a certain service level being delivered, so long as that process gets followed.
And so when you think of systems and processes, what did you learn most about the fact that you don't actually have to write them? Because people like you and I just go, oh, right, but we don't actually do these things. Other people do them.
Yeah, I learned that some people actually like doing it, and they're really good at it. That's what I learned. So not everybody's the same, and but everybody can get on board with the fact that they're needed. And it is painful for the majority of us to write it out and get it done, and it's extra work at the time. But once it's done, it's really just monitoring it and making subtle changes as you change processes because you improve them. So, yeah, the work's up front, but then over time it's less and less work because you're really just modifying it as you change.
I think I was in my early 30s when I learned about systems and processes and what it takes to have systematic things that you do. You do this, now you do this, now you do this. And it was when I attended some workshops on the work of W. Edwards Deming, where he said that 85% of your lost profit and efficiencies lie in the first 15% of every process in business, 3 levels deep. And it's a huge conversation. Right. And when people get that if they just documented how to do something, and I think what I learned from someone was that if I was hit by a bus, could someone else do what I was doing? And if they can't, then your systems and processes are ineffective.
Yep.
And so I loved his work and I learned a lot from it. And I know that you became quite adamant about get this done. And when you sold the RTO, I'm going to say that the fact that you'd done that actually put a value on it because that is now intellectual property.
Oh, yeah. And look, to get that business back on track and COVID played havoc with our training business. It was horrendous. So, all this sort of I had a number of years there that were quite challenging.
Well, you went through about 4 years and it was tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. So 2019 is where, the other business didn't succeed. The training business had to go through a restructure. I had to get a lot of things into place in that business that I'd failed to put into place and really get that business back on track. We just got it back on track and COVID hit. So it was just really tough. And then
how dare that happen? That was such a killer.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that was just like a roller coaster for the next, and it took, because of the way that business worked and the time it took people to get through qualifications that we delivered, some of them were taking, 2 to 2.5 years to get through. It was just a really long tail of pain for us. And then we finally started coming through that. And like you say, I was, fortunate enough to be able to find, I think, the right organisation to take that business forward. I was at a point where I was happy to sell it, really needed to sell it for my own sanity. And
you were going mad.
Yeah, I was. And, I was shouldering a lot of financial strain. Personally, I was the sole owner of the business and, all that strain was on me and it had been for 4 or 5 years.
I think one of the nice things that you said to me was that you had a criteria that convinced you that the people who bought it were the right stewards for your learners and your team.
Yeah.
And I know how important that stuff is to you. So can you say more about finding the right steward if you're going to sell? Because, that some of those people have been with you a long time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, look, there was people in that business that have been there for, nearly 10 years. So I think finding the right organisation to help me sell my business. So, we were a reasonable sized business. I'd never sold a business before. So I needed help doing that. We found a corporate advisory firm, Greenwich, that, went through a process with us, which was run really well. They, sought out potential buyers for the business, just a normal, I guess, process of, going to market, but they know what they're doing. They helped us, through that whole process. Got down to, probably a handful of people that were interested, and then, a final 2 or 3 that sort of were putting money on the table saying, yeah, we're definitely interested. And I think the business that we ended up selling to, Catalyst Education, they're a not-for-profit company. their ethos is all around social benefit, and they are setting up an education business in Australia to support the care sector. We were heavily involved in the care sector ourselves, and I think, when I looked at their values and our values, they were very aligned, culturally. Whenever I met with them, there seemed like really good alignment. And it was an important thing to look at around, what I wanted to get out of the sale was, I didn't want to have my business gutted.
Yes.
They could show me how the business was going to fit in with their structure, and fortunately, nobody lost their jobs. They took everybody on board that was with the business. So I think that was great as an outcome, and having other RTOs in their group, they understood how to run an RTO. They just literally replaced me with their CEO.
A plug and play.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team was running the business. So it worked out, I think, really well for everybody.
So now ARC training's off your plate.
Yep.
How are you redeploying that focus across Cality Care, Arcway Careers? What do you think is happening in the industry now, and how are you making a difference?
What it's allowed me to do, I was running that RTO, so probably 80, 90% of my time was running the RTO. I didn't have a lot of time to devote to the other businesses. I've got great people running those businesses for me, and who've been with me for a long time. And I think what it's allowed me to do now is to really work on the businesses with them. And, I'm still not, I don't work in the business. They, they still run the businesses. I think it's a big shift for me personally.
Not getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, not getting my hands dirty. It's a big change. And I think although I'm coming to grips with it, I'm still a little bit uncomfortable that, I'm not working 12 hours a day. And, but I'm grateful for the time that I've got to spend a bit more time with family and friends and do some other things. But I'm keen to keep looking at opportunities and what's out there, and I love working with the guys on their strategies and what they're doing in the businesses and how can I help those.
I'd love you
grow.
to tell the story of the young woman who's running the Arcway Careers. That's the one, isn't
Messina,
it?
yep.
Messina. She's an extraordinary young woman, and she was one of your placements.
Yeah, she worked with us as a trainee.
Yeah, as a trainee.
Yeah, she
and now she
with
runs
us.
The business that trained her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and she's an amazing story.
She's an amazing person.
Yeah, she is.
And like you said when we first started, you've enjoyed watching my growth.
Yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed watching hers, and she's a better leader than I am. So at the end of the day, her starting with us as a trainee 15 years ago, and I think maybe for the last 8 or 10 years she's been running Arcway Careers. So she moved her way up through that business. She loves what the business does as well. She was, I think, around 19 when she started with us. So it's been a really great journey. And I think, she's somebody that's really open to learning, really open to feedback, and an A player. So there's nothing that she won't put a hand up to help with. She helped me, during that really tough period, we were going through. She did a lot of work in the RTO with me to try and help where she could, to get that business back on track. And, I'm fortunate to have, really great people like Messina, on board helping. But it is a good story.
It's just an amazing story. When she told me her story, I'm going, oh my goodness, that's the work that you actually are involved in that Arcway and that career journey is like literally you have someone running one of your businesses that you trained.
Yes. Yeah.
As a young person coming in, never having done that before, but had a kind of penchant towards it. I think it's extraordinary. And she is really a credit to the work that you guys do. Let's talk about people and culture. From placement to purpose, right? Like, I know that you've always been people first. What have you learned about building cultures where frontline carers and trainers feel and are seen and are supported? Like, what have you learned about that? Because a lot of them feel like they're out there on their own.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think I do probably more work now with obviously the internal team and working with the people internally. Our businesses, although we employ a lot of people, there's a lot of people that are out there servicing our customers, particularly in the care business, support workers that are part of our team. But these days, a lot of them are casual and they work for multiple organisations. So engagement of those staff is really important. Yeah. And I think, by putting into practice the things that we learned, particularly through your program, around, what are our core values as a business? We came up with excellence, courage and passion. Yeah. And they're not things that we just have sitting in a book or on the wall or something like that. But
so how have you installed that into your business? Like passion, what drives us, courage, doing what's right, excellence, what we bring. How have you installed that, especially when you've got a casual workforce? How do they know that?
Again, the drive of that for me personally is more internal. Whether that's driven externally would be less so. So for trainees, say, that are out in other workplaces, they would more take on the values of that workplace that they're in every day. So when you had somebody, one of our Archies in your workplace, they would have taken on your values. Yes. Because you're working there day to day. Yeah. So it's the people that are working in our business day to day that really those values shine for. The way we instill it, there's multiple ways, but you've got to have it. We bring it up in meetings. We bring it up in performance reviews. We talk about it a lot. Yeah. So it's not something, like I said, it's not something that just sits there. So it's not wallpaper. It's not wallpaper. And we, as a leadership team and an executive team, we critically think about decisions based on those values. So, there's things that we've chosen not to do and had the courage to say no to. Yeah. That without that value, without thinking that through, it might be a tough decision to make, but it ends up being the right decision. And I think courage is one of the really hard things to lean into. So, how do you for me, it's how do you have a conversation with somebody that's a little bit difficult, that, you're going to be talking about, things they're doing that you're not happy about, that you want to see change, and, how do you have that conversation the right way, but do it in a time frame that's going to address it, quick enough, and have the courage to have that conversation. For some people, it's not hard. For others, it is.
I love that your distinction on courage. Doing what's right, because doing what's right and doing the right thing are two very different things. And doing the right thing is to please other people. Doing what's right means that it works for everybody. Yeah. Even if you don't like it. We didn't ask you to like it. Yeah. It's just what's right. And it is actually really difficult. So the founder mindset, you've had your painful failures, and you've also had a successful exit and have grown really good businesses. What's your current philosophy on risk, speed of decision, and where to hold versus where to fold? When do you make those calls?
Wow, great question, Jennifer. I guess I don't leap in as fast these days.
No.
No, I don't. I certainly do seek other people's input into decisions, and I like to hear what people think. The ultimate decision is usually one that a few of us agree with, but we're at least listening to what everyone thinks. I think I'm a lot more respectful of the money side of it now. So, I wouldn't just leap into another business and throw, wads of money at it.
Yeah.
I think I became a bit flippant around, because I was successful, my businesses were doing well, it was great.
Let's blow a few $100,000 million.
What does it matter? So, I'm much more respectful of that now. And, I think that's some of the painful lessons I've gone through. And I think moving forward, looking at other business opportunities in the future, which I'm sure I will, I can't help myself.
Well, you're still young,
Yeah, that's true.
You're not going to retire and sit on the beach or something.
No, I certainly can't retire right now, but it's just finding something that I understand. So like you said earlier, jumping into something that I don't really understand, but I think it's a good idea, doesn't work for me.
Yep.
So long as I can understand it and have some sort of idea of how it would work and can contribute in some way in that sense. And, but first and foremost, it's who are the people that I might be doing that with. So, they're probably the number one selection criteria. So who am I actually, if I was going to go into another business opportunity with someone, first and foremost, who is that person and are they the right fit for me?
Yeah. Do they match your values? Because if they don't, you're going to have a problem.
Absolutely.
So for founders eyeing a move, right, what's a piece of advice that you would give them if they were wanting to look at the aged care or disability arena? And what are the 3 due diligence questions they must answer before committing? Like what is it they need to know? Because everyone's like, there's money in this. And I go, righto.
Yep. Yeah. Look, it's still an area of growth, but it's not an area of high margin. So if you're going to have a business working in the aged care or disability space, I think you've got to be really cognizant that you're going into it, with the right reasons. Our vision for our business and why we do what we do is to really help improve people and their lives. So that fits in well for us as a vision. Engaging people in the business that believe in what that business is doing. So in Cality Care, the team involved in that business that are working day to day are really passionate about caring for people with disability.
Yeah.
If you want to go into business in that space, if you don't know it, you'll need to find someone really good who does.
Yeah.
It's still, it's complicated if you've never done it, and never, provided any services in that space. And it's becoming more and more regulated now. So I kind of see a mirror of what happened in the education space. The education space is highly regulated now. And, but 10 years ago, it wasn't as, onerous around compliance. It's highly compliant and onerous now. And I think certainly in disability, we're seeing it move down that path. So I think you've got to be really across, your compliance and what your business does. It's, dealing with people that are very vulnerable. And, you've got to have great systems and processes in place to manage, all of those aspects, I think.
Yeah, because there's a lot of opportunity because you hear so much about how difficult that area is and that there are some unscrupulous people that have entered the industry. So now they're going to go, no, you got to do this.
Yeah, and they're weeding out those operators and it'll get better and better. And I think, to be honest, the government's policies around certain things, could have been a lot better.
Yeah. They seem to be slow to the party.
Yeah, sometimes they roll things out without, really diving into how can we set this up so that there's less chance of fraud.
Yeah.
Because, I understand the back end of claiming and how you do everything, and it's highly open to fraudulent activity. So,
wow.
I think you've got to be an ethical operator, and but like I said, the margins aren't high. You've got to
systems and processes now become
Really important.
Crucial.
Yeah, you've got to be really efficient in your system and your process. So I think, I think just be aware of that if you're looking at going into the care space.
So 20 years from now, maybe when you're thinking about retiring or, just doing something else, what impact do you want your companies to have had on the lives of job seekers, learners, and people who are receiving care?
Oh, I think the impact we're having today and we have had for lots of years now, I think it's, being able to help people, improve their lives, whether it was through education we were doing it previously or whether it's through young people coming through school and getting them their first, real job and helping them down that path and kickstarting their career, or whether it's, caring for people, making sure that they're, making the most out of life every day. It's really enabling them to have a better life.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't think it'll be different in 20 years to what we're doing now.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll improve as a business on what we do and how we do it. And hopefully we're helping more people. So, I think, I'd be happy in 20 years' time if we were doing what we're doing right now.
Cool. So in closing, what's a piece of gold that you would give anyone who wants to lead, wants to start a business? What do they need to look at around themselves? And what did you look at and make a difference to about you that allowed you to be the kind of leader that you are? Why your people will follow?
I find you've just got to be open and transparent. I've learnt that. And, just authentic about what you're doing. Find great people. Don't settle for okay. If you go with your gut, if you feel like something's not right, don't do it. That's usually right.
Yeah.
And, although there's lots of pressures at different times to do things, I think one of the things that I've learnt is to sleep on decisions. So I don't try not to make decisions on the spot. I try to absorb and think about it. I also don't these days fly off with every idea that comes into my head and start telling my team about it and we should do this and what about this, guys? I've learned again that sleeping on it's a good idea.
So sleeping on things, mulling it over, be open, be authentic, all those things that make people trust that you've got their interest at heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually the thing that you fear, there'll be something sitting there and that's the thing you need to address.
Yeah. The fears, your personal fears.
Yeah, it's just
go and address them.
Yep.
So Cameron, thank you so much for the time that we spent together in absolutely amazing conversations, the challenges you've given me personally, and for coming on our podcast, Slicing Through the Noise. Could you please tell our audience about where they could find Cality Care and your Archway? What is your web addresses? And let's put that on.
Oh, look, www.calitycare.com.au or www.archwaycareers.com.au.
Cool.
So.
Well, for those of you listening, please go and take a look at Cameron's businesses. The things that he has done for people in this country is absolutely amazing. And it's an absolute privilege that I have this man as someone that I can call when I'm stuck. So thank you for listening. Please press that subscribe button and share this video.